I'm Super Frizz. Super Frizz? I'm Super Fizz from the ETH Staker community, and I'm excited to be with you bright and early on a Saturday morning in Central Time for for the ETH Staker community call number 17. And this call is going to talk about the ETH1 to ETH2 merge, or the docking, or the dockening, or whatever it's going to be called. We have some great guests with us today, but before I get too far, let me tell you about who ETHStaker is and what we're doing here. ETHStaker is a kind of a loosely knit community of Ethereans who are interested in staking on the Beacon chain. So we take 32 Ether and we lock it up on the network, and we secure the network that way. And so our group, ETHStaker, helps people get that set up and running. We used to focus mostly on solo staking, and now we're shifting toward a focus on supporting people with less than 32 Ether staking. So I have some friends with me today. Patricio Werthalter is an ETHStaker. He is the man behind POAP.
Hello.
I have Lamboshi, aka Nolan. He is the brains behind the operation. I have Michael, who goes by Unvetica.eth.
Hello.
And ETHStaker has kind of a new initiative called Stakehouse, which kind of began as a single-click installer, but we're looking at expanding that to software tools for ETHStakers, so kind of a general department of tools. And Colfax Selby is running that initiative.
Hey everyone.
We also have a couple other guests with us. Terrence from Prismatic Labs, and JC, who is an independent researcher. That's our crowd. But let me get to the meat and potatoes. The ETH2 merge client, Catalyst, has been developed by two researchers, Mikhail and Guillaume. Hello, guys. Did I say it right?
Hi. Yes, I'm very impressed. At least the Guillaume part was really good. Congratulations.
I practice. Okay, so we are really excited to have you guys here today. So far, a lot of the information that has come out about this merge has been very technical, and while some of it has been distilled down, most of what I've seen at the user level has been translated through several parties. And so I think the exciting thing today is that we're going to be able to hear directly from the two people who are most responsible for the merge code about how it might work, what it's going to look like, and how it's going to affect us. So if you guys would like, Mikhail, will you tell us a little bit about your background and how you wound up involved with Catalyst?
Okay, so about my background, I joined the Ethereum community in 2015, like a month before the Frontier launch. Joined one group that has been worked on the Ethereum Java client, which was meant to be a Java client of Ethereum. Now it's deprecated like 2 years ago, maybe more. Anyway, participated in another project, then this company got retired, and we participated in the hybrid Casper FFG research by implementing the initial version of it. Then jumped on sharding, then on ETH2. After that, as a team, we joined Consensus, and I'm in particular started to work on the two-way bridge, and then it turned into merge, and this is where we are now.
Right, and for me, well, I've been a user of crypto since 2014, and in 2017, I've been able to join the Ethereum Foundation, the guest team, to work on some messaging protocol that was called Whisper. And one thing led to another. I worked on different areas of the code and of the Go Ethereum client. And when yes, I've been asked to look into ETH2, and then Danny Ryan introduced me to Mikhail. I'm actually not sure how that happened, but around this time we started working on that prototype, and yeah, we had some early successes. So this is how we continue working on this project.
Fizz, you're muted.
I'm going to stay unmuted. Out of personal curiosity, did you all choose to work on the merge client, or were you tasked with it?
Maybe Michael should should start while I think about an answer.
Yeah, I choose to work on it. I mean, I've been like in the research part, and at some point it turned into the demand on proof of concept to build it. So that's how it's happened. Yeah, then we meet with Guillaume. So
right. Sorry.
No, you please go ahead.
No, I was just saying yes. I've also volunteered. It's been suggested to me, and I say sure, let's do it. So yeah.
Cool. I'm going to start with some simple questions because I find that while I am a community organizer, I have a basic technical understanding, but I cannot get deeply into the weeds. And so what I'm always trying to do is take these complex concepts and share them in common language with users. And so one of the common simple questions we have is, what is the merge? How would you describe it?
Yeah, the merge is the upgrade of Ethereum mainnet, first of all. So this is the hard fork, and the core change in this upgrade is the consensus upgrade or consensus swap, replacing the proof of work of the proof of stake. And also merge previously been associated with some other changes that might be introduced at the point of merge. But the core change is the consensus upgrade.
Cool. And so when, as it's known as Serenity, when ETH2 was first envisioned, it was a huge bundle of changes that were kind of a massive upgrade, and that has been chopped up into a lot of tiny engineering tasks. And so when we refer to the merge, we are referring simply to the swap in consensus mechanism and almost nothing else. One of the things that has not always been clear to me is the merge does not instantly mean that staked coins will be live or that the ETH2 beacon chain will enable transactions. That's a false assumption. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, to the merge, let's say it's the MVP of Serenity. So it's just about getting you have in this roadmap, which is amazing, which has a lot of very nice features, and what the merge is like the pragmatic approach to this. We just say, okay, what is the minimum set of features that we can do to finally switch from proof of work to proof of stake, and that would let us, come up with all those fancy features in the future with more a hard fork. So sharding, everything will come afterwards. It's really just an upgrade to the consensus engine, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I'm going to ask.
Yeah, and one addition regarding validator withdrawals or transactions. There will be no transactions on the beacon chain, but there will be withdrawals. And the merge is like the consensus upgrade, is like the requirement for withdrawals to happen. Withdrawals also depend on the EVM change. So yeah, that's our inputs.
I need to clarify something because so at the point of the merge, we switch out consensus mechanism from proof of work to proof of stake, and at that point, all the EVM kicks in on the beacon chain, but that doesn't actually affect stakers. They're still on a separate accounting. Isn't that correct? Or is that correct?
In terms of accounting, it does not affect stakers. I mean, yeah, they have the validator balances stay unchanged and the logic around them.
Okay, and simply they still will not be able to withdraw until a later hard fork.
At the current understanding, like the simplified merge proposal, yes, there will be like the hard fork after that will introduce withdrawals. There is a good motivation and reasoning behind this.
Yeah, it does make sense. It took me a while to understand that, but it makes sense because you want to make sure that the consensus engine is working effectively with ETH2 before opening up this other floodgate of balances.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons, but another one, if you take the complexity of consensus upgrade and add the complexity of withdrawals and the EVM changes the withdrawals require, so you will have like much more complicated hard fork, much more complicated upgrade, and it will be delayed. So this like solution, this decision to ship them like at the same time will lead to delay in both the proof of stake and the withdrawals. So that's why it makes sense to simplify the thing and deliver and ship the proof of stake first, then the withdrawals. So that's it.
So as a summary, that really fits in with what Danny Ryan has been talking about with letting go of the ETH 2.0 phraseology, because that is a suggestion that there's one big leap. And really moving from proof of work to proof of stake, changing the consensus mechanism is really a long series of tiny changes that will sum up to an Ethereum upgrade that is simply Ethereum. It's not really Ethereum 2, it is just Ethereum. I have one more question, and then I'm going to pass it on to probably Nolan. So can you help us understand why is the merge such an important thing? Why is this change in consensus mechanism? Why does it matter?
You mean why does proof of stake matter?
Yeah, so why do we need to change? Like, I know there's a lot of talk about energy use, energy consumption. There's a talk about efficiency, but as the implementers, how would you say that it matters, or why is it a big deal that Ethereum makes this progression?
Well, why is it a big deal? I would say the first reason is completely social, because it's been promised as such. I mean, that was before my time, but my understanding of the history of Ethereum is that when Ethereum was launched, the promise that was that there would be a switch to proof of stake in not too distant future. So we're still trying to deliver on this promise, and we have a good plan to do so. There's also clearly an energy consumption aspect to it. I mean, if one machine at a time produces a block instead of 1,000 trying to compete, clearly that's going to consume less power, and it is a big motivation for some people working on ETH2. I don't know. I see people freezing. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Yes, we hear you well.
Okay, cool. Sorry, was that?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
please
cool.
continue.
Sorry, there was. there must have been a glitch. Sorry about that. And I would say at least the third aspect of it is also, I mean, it's more debatable, but the idea is that instead of buying, it reduces the centralization a bit, highly debated, I know. But the idea is that if the only investment you have to put is 32 ETH, that's a lot of money, but it's potentially cheaper than buying a mining rig and buying a big mining farm. Like if Ethereum goes the way that Bitcoin went, this is clearly a big centralization concern. So once again, debatable. I don't want to get into this, but I would say these are the three aspects for me.
Yes, so regarding the environmental impact, which is one of the most important reasons why this is happening, I've seen some back of the envelope calculations, and they are back of the envelope because we don't have reliable sources of data, but I think the calculation is pretty accurate. The running cost of the whole Ethereum network on proof of stake are expected to be 1/10,000th of what they are now. So that means that we would be spending 0.0001 of the energy the network uses today. And that's quite important. It's not a minor thing. Regarding decentralization, and it's highly debatable, and we aren't getting into that conflicting matter, but it's important to mention that it changes who the governors of the network are. Because right now the governors of the network, besides the community, the people running nodes and that are the miners. And there are some concerns regarding their incentives and how aligned they are with the future of the network. And it can be easily argued that in proof of stake, the way it's been designed, the holders of Ether are the people in charge of the steering the ship of the network.
I can also add, like the new consensus, like the beacon chain that is driven by the beacon chain, has a number of advantages to what we have now. So first, the obvious one is the economic finality, right? So since we don't need to burn electricity, it comes with lower issuance costs. Also, the new consensus is scalable. So hence the shards and the application access to this data availability layer which will be provided by the shards. Yep. So it also has maintain the randomness, which is stronger than the proof of work has. So it's just, yeah. And also regarding attacks, the attacks in the proof of stake are accountable. So the ETH of attacking validators will be just burned, or I mean, a part of this ETH, which is not the case for the proof of work. So it's not possible to burn hardware, I guess.
There are plenty of reasons to move to proof of stake. It's so much better in so many fronts.
Yeah, totally. The thing you haven't mentioned is lower issuance, of course, because we're burning less energy, we can reduce the cost considerably.
Can you guys talk about when the merge does come? How is that going to work at that day? Is it something that's going to happen over, a period of time? Will it be an instantaneous thing? What are we going to be looking for there?
If we talk about consensus upgrade, the consensus upgrade is like the merge and the biggest chunk of the merge. So let's for simplicity's associate the merge with just the consensus upgrade. So there will be instant at the point of merge, there will be instant change of the fork choice rule, and the validators who are proposing blocks and who are testing to the proposed blocks will have to first insert new blocks, new application payload yeah, first of all, need to say that there will be the new type of container, new type of data in the beacon block. It's going to be an application payload. The application payload or the application block is this. Is the ETH1 styled block without bits of consensus data, without ETH hash data. So it will be included into the beacon block. And yeah, testers will have to first execute all the transactions before testing to the block. And proposers will have to produce this payload for each beacon block. The importance of importing it is because of the fork choice, and if the application block part of the beacon block is invalid, then the entire beacon block is invalidated. That's going to happen and starts happening since the point of merge.
Can you briefly go over how do the ETH2 client gets the application payload?
Well, it has to be connected. So how does it get the application payload? They have to be connected to something that resembles an ETH1 node, and they communicate with it through an HTTP endpoint, regular network communications. And at some point, there are several models, but at some point they will detect that this is the moment to stop receiving the data and more like giving orders. And this is when giving orders to the ETH1 engine, it's called, to tell it to start producing block on command. And so on an ETH2 client, actually I should have let Michael speak about this because he's on the ETH2 side. If it's not clear, I'm on the ETH1 side. But yeah, let's say on the ETH2 client side, I would say you just need to detect this is the moment to switch, and then you start giving orders to the ETH1 engine instead of listening to it.
For this to happen, so let's say it's merge day. At that time, am I then running, for example, Geth and Teku, and the ETH1 data is managed by Geth? Does the data move, or do I begin running a merged client before that manages that data, and there's no movement? What does the software stack look like for an end user?
Yeah, it's basically two clients side by side, at least the model we have. Of course, the long-term objective is to merge everything together. But since we want a quick merger, at least as early as possible, without compromising security, obviously, what will likely happen is that you have an ETH2 client running and an ETH1 client communicating side by side. And like I said, they communicate through something called an RPC, through RPC endpoints. And so from what I understand, it's already the case from like an ETH2 client needs an ETH1 client running next to it. So this model doesn't change at first. We just upgrade the consensus. So the ETH1 client continues working pretty much like it was, except instead of deciding, okay, I'm going to produce the next block, it waits from the ETH2 client to tell it, hey, time to produce this next block, or I just found a new block, tell me if it's good or not. And if it's good, we'll accept it.
Can you kind of predict for us a lot of people who are home stakers running ETH2 validators now are using Infura or other data feeds? Will they need to begin managing their own chain, or would they continue to be able to use that kind of data feed?
It's not only it becomes not only a data feed. Each validator will have to propose, like we'll have to create this application block or application payload. So for the data feed part, yes, Infura could be used. Like it also one responsibility is to produce. The other one is to attest, to make sure that the execution of this particular payload is correct. So yeah, that's a good question, because in my perspective, there will be a service that will provide the outsourcing of the application block responsibilities for the stakers. So it's like you're asking not like a application node running side by side with your beacon node, but rather asking the service, so give me a new block, produce a new block for me, or please insert this block and tell me whether it's valid or not. That's kind of thing that should happen from my perspective, because it's because producing a block, you can set your coin base and get the transaction fees, you know, so that's economically incentivized.
Okay. Now is a great time for us to take a kind of a break and talk about POAP. And so Michael is our resident POAP communicator. So will you tell us what we need to know?
Sure. So I believe if everything is in line here, those watching the YouTube live stream can go to our ETHstaker Discord at invite.gg/ETHstaker. There you'll find a POAP bot. Go ahead and directly message the POAP bot with today's code word, and today's code word is merge, MERGE. Go ahead and again directly message that bot, and it will issue you a POAP claim code for today's ETHstaker community call.
We have many more questions.
So can you guys give us an overview on what has been done so far and what still needs to be done to successfully complete the merge?
Yeah, that's also a good question. We have a POC, the proof of concept. Actually, there is like the local test network could be set up with Catalyst and Taku to run together. Yeah, so that's also, we have the open pull request to the ETH2 specs repository. And if we take a look at the scope, there is the research part, which still has some open questions like block hash randomness problem. And now we are at the specs point, at the specs stage, work on the specs, work out the ETH2 spec, and to work out what the application layer will look like. Then the implementations, then the infrastructure, test nets, and big production, like production sized test net. So yeah.
Is there a target for having a frozen spec?
The frozen spec.
At a target time, when do you think you will freeze the spec?
I feel like specs will be like ready in next quarter. Not ready to be finalized, but almost ready to go. And the main part of the specs will be ready by that time.
Let's say that the specs are somewhat frozen or about to be frozen. How heavy is the lifting that other clients not working on this at this stage will have to do?
Okay, as far as the other clients, the other ETH1 clients, I'm going to say not too much. You need to implement that RPC interface. you need to, okay, there's a big question. What is still, I mean, I'm connecting back to your question about what remains to be done. On the ETH1 side, there's still the question of how you're going to synchronize. It's not really clear, in my opinion, how you become a staker, like you start putting your, sorry, you become a validator. But you need to have an ETH1 engine that is up to date. How do you get the data from the network to come up to the head chain so that you can propose blocks that are that make sense? So this one is still a bit up in the air, and this is the difficult part because no ETH1 client really syncs the same way. I mean, there's been some effort at compatibility, but honestly, it's not where it should be. So I would say, yeah, that is the big part of the work for the ETH1 clients. But otherwise, since it's pretty much the same way of functioning, there's very limited work for other clients to adapt to do what I did with Geth and Catalyst.
That from the legacy side, and what about the ETH2 side? Is it a lot of work or is it somewhat doable?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You're muted, Mikhail.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat, please?
Yes. So we know from Guillaume that although there are a couple unsolved challenges on the legacy side, it's not too much work to deploy the requirements for being merge ready on the other ETH1 clients like Besu and Open Ethereum or however they are called now. What about the other ETH2 clients that aren't working on the merge yet, like Lighthouse or Prism? Will they have to do a lot of work to be compliant, or is it much something they can plug in?
Yeah, I get it. It's not a big chunk of work on the Beacon chain side in terms of implementation. It's more about testnets, testing, and so forth. So the spec change required to the Beacon chain is relatively small. You can look at the pull request and.
Well, I couldn't because I can't really grok how hard it is. But it's nice to see that once you get this done and nicely designed, the implementation resources are mostly engineering, and it's not that they really have to invent a new thing.
Yeah. So yeah, the changes are pretty not tiny, but it has some probably pain points.
And it's nice that we have one of the core devs of Prism, who's Terence here. Terence, are in your team the people already looking at what it will be needed for joining the merge, or are you guys waiting for having a much clearer spec?
No, we're definitely have started reading it, learning it, and building prototype from it. I know TechCrew also has been doing a great job on that. They are probably ahead right now. And I know Lighthouse, Paul is also working on that. So yeah, we're all working on it right now.
Okay, so we can assume that once we have the spec, it shouldn't take much long for you guys to be compliant. So for defining when we could be thinking on a launch date, most of the time on the Gantt chart, it's going to be testnets.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't really want to answer so much on the timeline just because I don't want to overpromise. But from my point of view, I think this is less of an implementation challenge. This is more of a coordination challenge and then testnet challenge, since we're getting into the ETH1 of things.
Yes, so we don't expect any of you to commit to a date. What we want to achieve by asking these questions about timeline, it's letting the educated observer, we have over 100 people watching this on the YouTube live stream. So we want the educated observer to know exactly, or at least to know what are the checkpoints and the things that need to happen to understand what's the degree of completion. So as a rough estimate, I'm understanding now, in next quarter, we might be having a final spec, once we have a final spec, we might see internal testnets that you will run among your own teams. If those goes well, we will likely see some sort of Medasha testnet, like a testnet that anyone can join, that it's still running on testnet Ether, so nothing is at serious risk. We will see how that launched, because we had several nothing at stake problems. And maybe if that public multi-client testnet goes well, it may take us 2 to 4 months of intense testing and bug bounty and hacking and attacking and maybe an attack net. And then afterwards, we might be thinking on a final launch date. Could you guys say that a rough timeline is logical, or did I miss any significant checkpoint?
I don't think that significant checkpoints are missed, but there will be like community work in parallel. So yeah, we also need like the feedback, the supports, and the understanding that the infrastructure and the existing applications will work, and to understand that the required upgrades in the infrastructure, like in block explorers, are brought up. So a lot of things actually.
Yeah,
so it's not like it's not like a timeline step by step. It's like several big things happening in parallel.
Yeah, so for giving the community access to easier to digest information is that we run these calls and we put together content that consumers and users of the network and stakers can understand and learn from without having to become distributed systems experts. If stakers just need to make some slight adjustment, and they may come to our community to learn about them. So we have a specific plan for education on that field, and we hope it helps fleshing out all this information that the community needs to learn about. So it's much easier to achieve the highly desired launch date without having delays because the community is not fully educated.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's indeed a lot of what you describe. You need and also, like Michael said, we need the whole ecosystem to adapt. There's probably you're going to need updates, right, to wallets. I mean, maybe not wallets directly, but to a lot of the infrastructure components. And there's sorry, there was something else I wanted to add. It escapes me right now. But the idea is that oh yes, I wanted to give an example. So I think that was the end of last year. Optimism found a bug in Guest that had been patched a few versions back, and they started testing it live. And for a couple of hours, we found out that some software hadn't been updated. So there's really a long groundwork that is difficult to predict, where you have to make sure that everybody's ready to do the jump. Like, I assume most of the software will have some kind of switch that needs to recognize that this is the moment to swap from one network to the other. But there's really a big groundwork to make sure that everybody has updated their software to a recent enough version that they are ready to tackle this merge. And it's, like I said, it's really hard to predict. So there's really a big work of informing everybody. You need to update your software. You need to do this kind of thing.
So there was thank you very much for the explanation. It's quite important and cool to set realistic expectations. There was a question that I don't know if it was coming or we missed, but this is a good time to ask. How many people are working on the merge? So you, Guillaume, seem to be somewhat leading the legacy side, and you, Mikhail, are leading the Beacon Chain ETH2 proof of stake side. But besides the two of you, who else is supporting you with research and with implementation? Like, not that we need an exact number, but to understand, is it 5 people, 10 people, 50 people?
It starts to get more engaged for the others, for developers from like ETH2 and like mainnet side, and from the researchers part as well. So it's now a lot, I would say. By the time that we've been working on the proof of concept, it was like a few people, I'd say, but now it's like really many eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more people, and something I wanted to add earlier when you asked about other clients, what kind of work they have to do. I just wanted to add, I'm happy to help other clients adapt. So just shoot me a message, and if you have a problem, and we're always happy to get more people, more eyeballs on this problem. We can't really give you a number because the numbers started exploding recently with the opening of the channel. We're not quite sure who's actually working on the project or just looking, but we're definitely not. It's not just the two of us anymore. That's something
Yeah.
I can.
So what I get, it used to be single digits, like between 1 and 9, and now it might be low 2 digits. And where does the debate happen? Does it happen mainly on the research and development Discord or in some other forum? Let's say that someone works at Coinbase and they have some weird setup with their nodes and they want to get some info from the people working on it. What's a debate forum?
Yeah, Discord is a good place to start. I don't know. Yeah, there used to be a public Telegram channel, but I think it's been merged with Discord. I'm not sure where it went. Otherwise, get in touch with any of us, and we'll see. Yeah, and Danny Ryan. More importantly, he's the coordinator of all this effort. And if we are ready to help. We want to make sure that everybody's up to speed and ready to go.
And when you say Discord, is a research and development Discord, not the guest Discord or any other?
No, definitely not. I don't know who looks at the guest Discord these days. Yes, the R&D one is the place to go. Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know if we missed Nolan because we had more questions from him.
By the way, I wanted to mention one important thing because I was speaking about the application service that will provide the individual stakers the ability to build blocks and insert blocks, verify that execution is correct. The other thing here, it might happen that there will be a proof of custody for the execution. This is to encourage all stakers to not fall and to not behave bad regarding the verifier's dilemma, because you may produce like empty blocks without having the ETH1 application node aside, and you may trust everybody else and just fire attestations without without verifying the execution. That's and here is why the proof of custody. So it might be important, and yeah, I mean for individual stakers, this information.
So I have one question that if we don't ask, our community is going to be very upset, because our community is comprised mainly of solo stakers, people that stake at home, and they want to know if they are running nodes for the current Bitcoin chain, and they have some constraints, whether it's in bandwidth or hardware. Do they have to expect to need an upgrade? Like compared to a current validator, are the hardware and networking requirements, do they increase on the context where we merge successfully?
If there will be a necessity on running the like the application node, which is basically the ETH1 client. Yes.
So they can expect the required resources, like for example, let's say in bandwidth and connected peers, will it be like connecting to twice the peers because you are syncing two networks?
That's yeah.
I'm thinking probably not, because presumably all those peers will be running both networks at the same time. So I mean, yes, it will be twice the peers, but it will be the same people. Like it's twice the peers divided by 2. So
oh yeah, but
I mean,
when you calculate hardware requirements, it doesn't matter if it's going back and forth to the same 2 endpoints. It's the open connections your hardware supports. So people do have to expect to increase their hardware power.
Yes, at first, because we're taking ETH1. It's really just taking ETH1 and putting it inside ETH2, and then slowly doing the cleanup afterwards. Like the general philosophy is done is better than perfect. So we're creeping towards this this perfect picture that has been created by the research teams. But right now we still have this big, this humongous ETH1 node that needs to be turned into something. So I remember you were asking one of the questions before this talk with the Raspberry Pi. I don't think your Raspberry Pi is going to be workable day one, right? Merge day one. But clearly, in ETH2, we get finality that can be transferred to ETH1. So I expect, for example, very quickly that the disk requirements will not be as big. Then there's stateless. This one is a bit more up in the air, but as soon as you get stateless, as soon as you get all those nice features, you will be able to have a smaller setup. But I would say day one, you really need what it takes to run an ETH1 node.
Yeah, bottom line, anyone who's running a validator now and doesn't have plenty of resources available better get a plan for upgrading it, because you may have a bad time in a year.
I can predict that that's going to cause concern in the community, because people who are running those Raspberry Pis now, who've been validating since December on them, are going to begin to feel very concerned about what's going to happen to them when the merge happens. And we've kind of been hesitant to encourage people to stake with a Raspberry Pi without really knowing what the future was going to hold. I would say to those people right now, relax and wait a little while. Let some solutions evolve. Things are going to be fine. If there are additional hardware requirements, then those will be made very clear in plenty of time. But you should probably begin to, whether it's a factor of money or planning, you should begin to anticipate that you may have to upgrade your hardware. Or there may be a software solution that negates that. But don't worry about it right now. We'll figure it out in the coming months. We do still have plenty of time.
Can I clarify? Just if you're running an ETH1 node today, as well as a beacon node and validators, you won't need any more hardware, right? The requirements will be more or less exactly the same. So if your setup today is happily running an ETH1 node, beacon node and validators, nothing to worry about, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So the point, so if you're not running an ETH1 node, if you do what I do, I'm a very bad person, and use Infura, for example, to serve your ETH1 data, then you might need to think about bringing the ETH1 node local, which is going to increase your requirements. Is that's the point? Yeah,
and the other possibility is that Infura will provide you with the service to produce blocks, so you will not. So it depends on the final design.
Right.
And it definitely right to definitely correct to not like make a decision right away about this question.
Right. But down the road, we'll be looking at sharding, and at that point, then overall requirements are going to increase over and above what people have today, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to add something. So actually, I didn't really think about the Infura use case. I don't think it will be possible to really do this, because yeah, the blocks get much closer to one another, so might be a bit difficult to rely on Infura. But I was thinking actually maybe it's not like you don't need to really have double the peers, because for ETH1 you just need to receive transactions. Like if you are asked to produce a block, the block that come to the ETH1 engine, they come through the ETH2 engine. So you can keep the same amount of peers. I mean, unless Mikhail says this is not true, but from intuitively, I think you need the same kind of peers. And you just need to add a few peers so that on the ETH1 side, so that you receive transactions to put in your block. But apart from that, you should not need as many peers. So when it comes to computing power, like memory, disk, clearly the requirements are the same. But for your internet connection, it should still be reliable. It should still be pretty hefty. But it's not going to be a double. I don't think so.
So can you guys talk about recently Vitalik proposed a quick merge plan? Can you talk about what the difference is between that and the previous merge plan?
Yeah, so the quick merge is the consensus upgrade in very simple form. And it also describes the particular docking procedure. Docking is the procedure of building and finalizing the first proof of stake block on top of the last proof of work block. So this is for clarity. And yeah, so that's it. It's just simplified consensus upgrade as much as it can be. And the previous, like the executable beacon chain, for instance, implied the EVM changes as well. So, and ETH1 data vote, ETH1 data follow distance reduction as well. So, and the quick merge doesn't have this in place. Yeah, and the very, very previous design of the merge was about to merge the chains actually. So to deprecate the application chain and use only the beacon chain for the history purposes and for anything else. But yeah, this quick merge proposal and consensus upgrade doesn't imply the deprecation of the application chain. So that's the differences.
Is there any concern of like tech debt from doing the quick merge versus the previous plan?
Concerns regarding there was like a this simplification like has a lot of reasons. I mean, the quick merge approach is better because it simplifies a lot of already complicated thing. So we had like this consensus upgrade. It's been said that it's pretty complicated from many points of view. That's like any concerns here. I don't think so. So we can just roll out the consensus upgrade and do the other changes like after that. It will reduce the complexity per unit of time. I mean, per the hard fork.
So we have about 5 minutes left, and so we can get in a few more questions. I need to let everyone that's listening know that the POAP delivery bot is not working exactly as expected, but you can still contact the POAP delivery bot and send the message merge. It will keep a record of your Discord username and will be able to deliver those POAPs later. So go ahead and if you go to the ETH Staker Discord at invite.gg/ETHStaker, find the POAP channel, look for the POAP bot, and right-click to message that bot and tell that bot merge. It will say, what are you talking about? But we will have a record of your entry and we'll be able to get you a POAP as soon as the call is over. That's not true. Probably in the next day because we have other stuff to do also. I think, Patricio, did you want to talk about POAP? I was about to ask a question, but I see that you're ready to speak.
No, that's what I was going to say. What I also going to mention, there were during the call, more than 100 people watching this on YouTube. I speak for all the ETH community when I say that we are very thankful that you came to speak this in terms we can understand. The merge seemed to be for us something that was really important but really hard to understand. So thank you very much for coming and speaking, dumbing it down for us. We want the ETH community organizers to bridge this learning gap between super tech staff to the things that people on the ground need to know. So we expect maybe when we are approaching to the next quarter release or something, we may want to do an update to learn what's the latest and what changes between us. Also, whenever you need to reach out to the community, feel free to relay your message with us, because we can put it out there on all the social media channels and make it much easier for you. So we would be happy to help and to make this a success with all our efforts aggregated.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I got caught typing. So I have one question. Our friend York Down would like to ask one question, and then we will go ahead and wrap up at the top of the hour. And so I know that one of the concerns from people watching this call is going to be hardware readiness. Is there a GitHub repo where they can download the software to test right now to begin preparing for this, or can they look forward to that in some kind of time frame?
Yeah, so there's an open PR for Catalyst. So Catalyst is just Get with some fancy with a fancy name. There's a PR that I'm hoping to get merged. It's always hard to get stuff merged in Get. So it should be there pretty soon, and I'll ping Patricio. Otherwise, there was a document I think there was a document that Mikhail wrote. Yeah, if I'm making this up, we'll let you know. But there will certainly be some explanation how to do that in the very, very close future.
I would say anyone that has the knowledge for downloading Catalyst and creating his own testnet, he can likely apply for a shop as well.
It can't be that hard, right?
One thing to mention here, I have not yet finished this small project, but there is the setup, the Docker Compose setup for the local test network with Deku and Catalyst. So I've just dropped a link in the chat, so share it. Yeah.
That was a question that was asked and we missed, and seems that people like it. Any final word to say about the implementation of the Luxo network?
Yeah, so I mean, Luxo indeed got interested in Catalyst. I'm actually not sure if they're running it in right now, but we helped them, I mean, mostly Mikhail. I should not steal credit there, but to get everything set up. I don't really have any updates. Do you, Mikhail?
They actually want to use it in a bit different design. I mean, the executable docker spec. So yeah, they are doing something similar, but with own design decisions. So yeah, and they are working. They keep working. I know where is the launch date, actually, but yeah, it should be. It was like pretty soon to me, what I understand.
Awesome. So I have, I know him as Yorick. He has a different username here, but he's one of our educators, one of our most knowledgeable participants in ETHstaker, and he has a question that I wanted to make sure he was able to get in before we wrap. Oh, and let me check your volume there, Yorick.
I'm muted. That was on
Great.
my end. Thank you. Yeah,
Power
I usually
user.
go by Yorick down, and I just doxed myself, which is okay because I also did it in ETDC. So more a comment maybe than a question. So I know there's been a lot of discussion about MEV, miner extracted value, and I'm expecting that we'll see something similar after merge with VEV, validator extracted value. Any kind of comments or thoughts on that?
Good question, actually. I'm not like an expert in this part, but I don't think like the merge changed the game significantly in that regard.
Yeah. Especially at the beginning. I mean, there's a big we keep, like, if, for example, in Geth, we keep talking about this fairly regularly, but ultimately, yeah, it's the rules. We don't want to make it too easy for them to do this kind of stuff, but ultimately, it's the rules of the game, and you know, if getting a completely decentralized system is something that you know, if it's the price you have to pay for that, I would say it's still acceptable. Yeah, it's not great, but it's manageable, I would say.
Understood. Well, thank you for your comments.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. I noticed that Ben Edgington and Trent Van Epps joined us. We're always glad to have you guys with us. A super big thanks to Mikhail and Guillaume. Oh, I practiced, for joining us. We were so glad to have you guys. This has been one of the biggest unknowns for the staking community. And so it has been great to get some insight about that and some better understanding. Thanks everyone on YouTube for hanging out with us. I'd like to give Michael just a second to tell everyone about our next event, and then we will call it a wrap.
Yep. So next week, Saturday, March 27th, we will be having the eStaker Validator Workshop. This will actually be, it's a great transition from this call into that. So those solo stakers that want to prepare for the merge or have additional questions regarding their validator node, this is a great opportunity for that. We'll be going through a bunch of different things, mainly working with the deposit CLI, spinning up a MVP product as a validator, and going through a bunch of different scenarios for solo stakers to help support their own machines, basically. So that is the 27th of March, next Saturday. All of those details, as they become more solid, will be posted on our website, eStaker.cc.
Awesome.
Final plug, the Berlin Countdown Call, have we mentioned that?
No, yeah, so I'm sorry. So the Berlin Countdown, that is in April. Let me check my notes here.
Yep, the 16th.
The Berlin Countdown Call is in April. It's based on block number. I think it's mid-April. But eStaker will also be hosting a countdown call for that. It is a required ETH1 client update. A failure to update will cause interesting behavior. So it just gives us an opportunity to get together and have a viewing party. One last thing I'd like to mention about next week's workshop is we'll be installing a validator client, a beacon chain and validator client, which can sometimes take an hour or two, depending on your experience level. Colfax, do you know of any easier way that we might be able to spin up that validator?
Well, I'm glad you asked. There's an ongoing open source project that is kind of birthed out of the eStaker community that we're calling Stakehouse, that I'm sort of taking the lead on. And what it is a one-click installer for these validators. So a process that took me, about 3 hours. I learned pretty much everything from Michael, or in Vedika.eth. Now can basically be distilled down to, once we productionize the app, you can download this app and basically pick a client and click install, wait a couple minutes, and then deposit your keys. Wait for some things to sync, and you're up and running. So if you're interested in either using it, testing it, or contributing, reach out to me on Discord. I'm Colfax on the eStaker Discord, or take a look at the eStaker GitHub repo, called Steakhouse. We'd love to have you join and test.
Awesome.
There's
So
also
if
a
you're
Gitcoin grant for it too, as well.
a
Just
Gitcoin grant,
throwing that out there.
we have an eStaker Gitcoin grant bundle, and so if you're a new staker, if you set up your staker 3 months ago, you spent hours getting everything set up perfectly. Now with Colfax's, or I'm sorry, with Steakhouse's installer client, it is a one-click graphical installer. It's absolutely awesome. If you don't have 32 Ether, we also have some exciting projects coming up that are open source, trustless, and decentralized staking opportunities that actually further democratize the Ethereum 2 ecosystem, or the Ethereum ecosystem, rather than centralizing it on just a few nodes. So right now, the one that we're looking forward to around April is Rocket Pool. I'm looking forward to other pools who will do similar things to further decentralize and democratize our world. So thanks everyone for joining us, and it's been a blast. Oh, sure. Go ahead,
there's a quick question by Mikhail.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I was just going to make a little announcement and to encourage every community member, if you have any doubts or not understanding something regarding the merge, go straight to ETH R&D Discord, to the merge channel, ask questions. This is very important for everyone, and yeah, we will be very glad to discuss or answer the questions. This is how I feel like this will be very helpful for the merge in general. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And I can sense that as we get closer, there will be more concern and more questions, especially because of the hardware configurations. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us all today. It was good to see everyone, and enjoy the beginning or the end of your Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.